Random House Audio presents Healthy Aging, a lifelong guide to your physical and spiritual well-being. This is the author, Andrew Weil, MD. Introduction. Recently, I turned 60. To help celebrate the occasion, friends organized a surprise party for me. After the festivities, there came a time to reflect, and when I did, I came to an uncomfortable conclusion. I am closer to a time when my energy and powers will diminish, when I will lose my independence. 60 is about the time that organs of the body begin gradually to fail, when the first hints of age-related disease begin to appear. I hardly notice my aging on a day-to-day basis. When I look in the mirror in the morning, my face and white beard seem the same as the day before. But in photographs of myself from the 1970s, my beard is completely black. Looking at old photographs, I can't help but notice the physical change that has taken place in the course of 30 years. If I pay attention, I can notice other changes in my body. More aches and pains, less resilience in meeting the challenges of traveling, less vigor on occasion. And my memory may not be quite what it used to be. At the same time, despite the evidence, some part of me feels unchanged. In fact, feels the same as when I was 6. Almost everyone I talk to about aging reports similar experiences. Some years ago, I went to my 25th high school reunion, the only school reunion I have ever attended. I had not seen most of my classmates since our graduation in 1959. A few of them were just as I remembered them, hardly changed at all, closely matching the images in my memory from a quarter century earlier. Others looked so aged that I could barely find points of coincidence with the pictures of them I had in my head. Why the difference? Why are some individuals so outwardly altered by time and others not? Or in other words, why is there often a discrepancy between chronological age and biological age? I believe that the answer has to do with complex interactions of genetics and environment. I also believe, based on evidence I have reviewed, that we have control over some of those factors. I do not subscribe to the view that aging suddenly overtakes us at some point in life, whether at 60 or some other milestone. I meet researchers, physicians, and others who believe that we are born, grow rapidly to maturity, and then coast along on a more or less comfortable plateau until we begin to decline. They call the period of decline senescence, and consider it distinct and apart from what came before. If one looks only at the physical aspects of life, especially on the cellular level, this is a plausible view. Cells from old organisms are different from cells of young ones, and observations about how they differ are the basis of biogerontology, the new science of the biology of aging. It is biogerontologists who promote the idea that aging is a programmed phase of decline following the plateau of maturity. In their view, senescence is a discrete phase of cellular life coincident with loss of the cell's ability to divide. Senescent cells can still perform many of the functions of life, but they cannot reproduce. When researchers attempt to take cells from organisms, whether plants or animals, and grow them in test tubes, senescence soon overtakes the cultures. Cells stop dividing, and the cultures die. In human life, senescence equates with the period of functional decline that precedes death, with the appearance of age-related diseases. By contrast, when cells turn malignant, they often become immune to senescence. Cell biologists refer to this change as immortalization. It is one of the most curious and important characteristics of cancer, and I will describe it in more detail later. It points to an equally curious and important possibility about aging, namely that the mechanics of aging in cells may have evolved as defenses against cancer. Malignant growth may be immortal at the cellular level, but it has the potential to disable and kill entire organisms prematurely, that is, before they can pass on their genes and contribute to the survival and evolution of the species. For life to continue, prevention of malignant growth must be a priority. In any case, I find it more useful to think of aging as a continuous and necessary process of change that begins with conception. In the words of an Eastern philosopher, the sun at noon is the sun declining, the person born is the person dying. Wherever you are on the continuum of aging, it is important to learn about how to live in appropriate ways in order to maximize health and happiness. That should be an essential goal for all of us. What is appropriate when you are in your 20s is likely not to be appropriate when you are in your 50s. But I also want to say at the start that I do not believe aging to be reversible. In taking that position, I realize I am taking a risk with those who want to hear that aging is reversible, that we will all get to age magnificently. I could say those things, but I won't. If you want to read them, go into any bookstore, and you will find no end of titles that are variations on those themes. The hard fact is that aging will bring unpleasant changes, among them aches and pains, decreased vigor, healing ability, sensory acuity, muscle tone, bone density, and sexual energy, memory deficits, wrinkles, loss of beauty, friends, family, and independence, increased reliance on doctors and pills, and social isolation. We can mask the outward signs of the process or try to keep up old routines in spite of it, but we cannot change the fact that we are all moving toward physical decline and death. The best we can do, and it is a lot, is to accept this inevitability and try to adapt to it, to be in the best health we can at any age. To my mind, the denial of aging and the attempt to fight it are counterproductive, a failure to understand and accept an important aspect of our experience. That attitude is a major obstacle to aging gracefully. To age gracefully means to let nature take its course while doing everything in our power to delay the onset of age-related disease, or in other words, to live as long and as well as possible, then have a rapid decline at the end of life. There is a great deal of good news to report about aging, too. Happily, most of us will not have to age the way our parents and grandparents did. We have access to better medical treatments for age-related diseases and better knowledge about how to prevent them. We eat better food. We have access to dietary supplements with beneficial effects on health, as well as to other products and services that help us meet the challenges of growing older. We understand the importance of physical activity and the management of stress. As a result, we are already seeing more and more people in their 70s who look and act the way most people used to look and act in their 50s and 60s, and more 80-year-olds who are still active, healthy, and enjoying life. Furthermore, I believe that aging brings rewards as well as challenges and losses. In this book, I want to direct your attention to areas of our experience where old and good are synonymous. What is it that moves us in the presence of old trees? Why are old wines and whiskeys valued much more than young ones? What is it about aged cheeses that improves them so much? Why does age benefit some violins? Why are some antiques so valuable? I want you to consider the qualities in these things that age develops, then look for corresponding qualities in people. Yes, aging can bring frailty and suffering, but it can also bring depth and richness of experience, complexity of being, serenity, wisdom, and its own kind of power and grace. I am not going to tell you that this or that diet, this or that exercise routine, or this or that herb will make you younger. I am going to try to convince you, however, that it is as desirable to accept aging as it is to take any other steps to improve your health throughout your life. To age gracefully requires that we stop denying the fact of aging and learn and practice what we have to do to keep our bodies and minds in good working order through all the phases of life. The first step toward aging gracefully is to look at the process squarely and understand it for what it is. Part 1. The Science and Philosophy of Healthy Aging. 1. Immortality. Question. If you could live forever, would you, and why? Answer. I would not live forever because we should not live forever, because if we were supposed to live forever, then we would live forever, but we cannot live forever, which is why I would not live forever. Miss Alabama in the 1994 Miss USA contest. Our attitudes toward aging and our responses to the changes in appearance that aging brings are totally colored by our knowledge that we are moving inexorably toward death.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?